Your priest is not normal. Mom and Dad, you could have told them that 20 years ago, right? Too late now. Here's some more evidence. Seminary. The normal way to start a lifelong career as an Episcopal priest is to go to college for 4 years and then to go to seminary for 3 more years. Normal seminary students take 3 years. Not me. It took me 9 years to get through seminary. And now there are reasons for this 9-year abnormality. I dropped out of my first seminary and then eventually dropped out of my former conservative religious tradition. I changed churches. I found the Episcopal Church. Also, my wife and I did have a baby, and then we had another baby. I am happy to say that I finished seminary with no debt, no student loans. I did it with the help of my wife, and I did it by combining working a full-time job with being a half-time student, and then later working a half-time job while being a full-time student. It was a lot of work, and it was a long 9 years. But my wife and I learned something really important. We'll get through this. It will take time. It will take patience. It will be a lot of work, and it will take doing it together. But we'll get through this. Now, I've spent 3 decades now as a priest in various churches, and the lesson remains. I have watched parents cope with the stormy and sometimes even dangerous journeys their kids make through adolescence. From the outside, it kind of looks like whitewater rafting. There they are, bouncing all around, but eventually the kid and the parents get to calmer waters. I've watched people take care of elderly, fragile parents, dealing with difficult demands and hard choices, sometimes patiently, sometimes maybe not, but almost always with great love. I've watched people care for spouses who have become very sick or even disabled, and I've been inspired by their devotion to their married partner in hard times. I've heard stories of people who got through a war or an economic crisis or terrible losses that came far too early in life. I have watched people care for a profoundly disabled family member. And all these people have shown me that same lesson that I learned back in seminary. We'll get through this. It will take time. It will take patience. It will take hard work. And it will take doing it together. But we will get through this. The past few Sundays we've been hearing from the New Testament book of Hebrews. Now, Hebrews is a little strange to our ears because it uses a literary style that's quite foreign to our modes of expression. But the overall message of Hebrews is about endurance. Jesus endured his trials, and we can too, says the book of Hebrews. We'll get through this. And today, from Mark's Gospel, we hear words of Jesus about hard times in the future, times of persecution and violence and destruction. Now, literal-minded Christians have done great mischief with texts like this. I really don't find it helpful to use the Bible as a blueprint for the future. These texts are about realities that were faced in the time of the original audience. All attempts to predict the future through the Bible, and I can start like last year and go all the way back to the year 0, all attempts to predict the future using the Bible have been dead wrong. Instead, the overarching message of Jesus is hope. We will get through this. That word "we" is important. We get strength from God, and we get strength from our companions. I have another confession of abnormality. I'm a 60-year-old guy. How do you like that, Mom and Dad? 60 years old. I'm a 60-year-old guy who likes superhero comic books and movies. I grew up on Spider-Man and Thor and all the rest. But here's the thing. If I got to pick one superhero I could be, it would not be anybody like the Lone Ranger. I want to be on a team, like the Avengers or the Justice League. Why? Because I think life is all about community and companionship. I don't say I will get through this. I say we will get through this. Besides, the Lone Ranger, not really alone. Who was always with him? Tonto, his faithful Indian companion. Joining together gets us through hard times. We will get through this. The murderous attacks in France this week have brought the world into solidarity with Paris. Hope you can see this logo that was created the night of the attacks by an artist in France, a peace sign using the Eiffel Tower. Today, around the world, people are saying, Je suis un Parisien. I am a Parisian. Of course, this takes us back in memory 14 years, doesn't it? I'm sure you can remember where you were on that terrible day of September 11th, 2001. I got the news on the radio because at my house we don't have TV. But the next day, I was visiting in Lourdes Hospital, and the member of my church had a nurse in, so I had to wait a little while. So I went and found a waiting room, and there was a TV on, and I saw this press conference held by the mayor of New York City and the governor of New York, who at the time was George Pataki. All of our emotions were really raw that week, of course, and the governor said something that really got to me and moved me. He looked at the cameras and he calmly said, "We'll get through this." And tears came to my eyes, and I still can feel that feeling now. We'll get through this. That was a message I needed to hear from my leaders on that day. We'll get through this. We'll hang in there together, and we will help one another, and we will endure. Now, we Christians can even say this in the face of death itself. The Gospels of Matthew and Mark and Luke and John end with what? The resurrection. The Gospels proclaim that Jesus got through death itself, and so will we. We'll get through this. Your priest is not normal, 9 years to do a 3-year seminary program, but it taught me something. And you have continued that lesson to me. We'll get through this. By the grace of God, through the promises of the Gospels, with the strength of our companions, we will get through. Amen.